Hi, I'm Mary from Joyful and Mary Quilting, and I think I have a love-hate relationship when it comes to freezer paper foundation piecing. In today's quilting tip, I'm going to demonstrate two great tips, that increase the love notes and decrease the hate speech when it comes to freezer paper foundation piecing. I'm going to show you how to piece a really cute little block. And if you haven't watched my video titled Foundation Piecing with Freezer Paper, the full tutorial, please do that. Because first, in that video, I painstakingly walk you through my bumbles and bloopers as I try to find the best way to print a foundation pattern on freezer paper. And then I make the block. Here is a better way, and it includes both of these items. So we've got the Odif 808 reactivating adhesive and a simple tracing wheel. So let's get started. First of all, freezer paper really does have some advantages. I love not having to remove little pieces of paper from my finished block. I love how the freezer paper is really sturdy and I can reuse it over and over and over again before it gets to the point that I need to swap out for a new piece of paper. I love the accuracy of foundation piecing overall, and freezer paper is really a great way to accomplish this task. But as I said, the love part of my relationship with freezer paper foundation piecing does have its drawbacks. First of all, I hate trying to print my block on a piece of freezer paper. If you take a look at the video that I mentioned earlier, you'll see why. I have wasted more time and more paper trying to remove a freezer paper printing job that has gone awry. Freezer paper is thicker than regular paper, which really does make it more difficult to fold it on the lines. That's another issue. And when I attempt to make a crisp fold on the sewing line of my foundation pattern, I find that if I make a little bit of a mistake, it's not easy to refold the freezer paper. In addition, printing on freezer paper using a laser printer can and does smear when you're touching it or when you're ironing it. That's an issue. It can get on your ironing board cover, it can get on your iron, and it can get on your fabric. I don't have an inkjet printer. From what I understand, that does work a little bit better, but I have a laser printer, so I have to work with that. If you're using a laser printer, the freezer paper can easily jam when you're printing. And it works on an inkjet printer, but a laser printer just gets too hot. And it can easily do damage to your printer when you're trying to send this type of paper through. I've tried by pressing my freezer paper to a piece of cardstock paper, and then I've sent that combo together through the printer, and that does work. But what I've had happen is the freezer paper can get a little bit off, and then it can come off of the cardstock. That causes a jam, or it can get stuck, or it can make it through, but it might slip a little bit, which causes a distorted image. My block isn't accurate, and it might be crooked on the page, and I cut off part of it. So those are a lot of issues that I explained in the previous video, but that always are difficult for me when I'm trying to foundation piece using freezer paper. And this is where this product comes in handy, and it made a huge difference. So let's walk through the process of how you use this. First of all, this is called Odif 808. It's called reactivating adhesive. I saw it on the shelf in a quilt shop and I was intrigued, so I picked it up to read what it said. First of all, it says for fabric and paper. Then it says use again and again for paper patterns, freezer paper properties. When I saw that, I knew I had to have it. I didn't know if it was going to work, but I really wanted to give it a try. I knew Grippy worked, so I had confidence that this was going to be a good product as well. If you go back on the back label and read the label instructions, it says 808 reactivating adhesive is for patterns, papers, and most battings. So there's several things that we can investigate with this product. We're only going to do freezer paper foundation piecing right now, but there are future tutorials in this can right here. 808 is not sticky, that's what it says, and easily stored for future use. Make your own temporary fusible projects. Any transparent paper takes on freezer paper properties. Most battings become fusible, does not gum needles or scissors. So all the important stuff, all the questions that we would ask about a product such as this. So I thought, let's go ahead and give it a try. Let's take and print a foundation pattern and go start to finish and see how this product works in taking regular computer paper and turning it into freezer paper. In other words, giving it those freezer paper qualities that will allow me to piece this cute little block and not have to remove bunches of pieces of paper that have been perforated, but rather will allow me to just remove the whole foundation piece without a mark on it and reuse it. So let's see how it works. So the first thing we need to do is print the foundation pattern as we would any pattern. This is just printed on regular copy paper. I've sent it through the printer. It will not smudge or come off simply because it's printed on regular paper. The freezer paper has that added stickiness to it that doesn't really allow the ink to adhere to it really well. That's why when you iron with it or you touch it with your finger when it's warm, you can get some of that toner off of the paper and onto your hands or onto your fabric or iron or ironing board. So the first thing that I did was you need to have this in a well ventilated area. I will be spraying the wrong side of my freezer paper foundation. So it does have a pretty strong odor to it, and you want to shake it up before you use it. And then about 6 inches away from the paper, you're going to just lightly spray it. So that's what we're going to do. Just a little bit, not a lot. It doesn't need to be saturated by any means. You just want a coating on the paper. So I have done that, and it does have a bit of a smell to it, but it's not bad. I don't feel like it's choking me or anything, but if you do have any kind of breathing issues, you'll either not want to use this product or you want to take it outside in a well-ventilated area so that you don't have that mist of the product coming up when you're spraying it. So I have sprayed it. I need it to dry. Right now it's tacky. It's not wet, but it's sticky. And I don't want to have that stickiness either come off on my hands. I don't want it to come off of the paper either. So we are going to set this aside for about an hour. Now, I set mine aside for, probably 24 hours only because I was using it the next day. And at that point, it felt just like regular freezer paper. It was not sticky at all. There was no tackiness to it. So I just used this piece of foam that I put under it to make sure that I didn't get it all over. Okay, so the first thing, we've got this all nice and sprayed. We have that tackiness, it's dry. We are going to actually use a tracing wheel on our lines so that it's easier to fold. We want to make sure that it's easy to fold as we are adding our pieces. So what I do is I take my ruler and I place it right up to the line. So you can't see any white space in between the line, but you can still see the line. And then I'm going to run my tracing wheel along every line on this pattern other than that 1/4 inch seam allowance. We're not going to run it there. So I'm just going to go all the way around. I'm going to do every single seam, and I've already done this. So I've got all of them marked. You can sort of see on the back that that grid is there, and now it's ready for me to start adding my pieces. The reason I use my tracing wheel to mark these lines is it allows me then to easily fold my pieces back, and you'll see that as we're doing this. If you don't have a tracing wheel, you can just lay your ruler right up to that line and you can fold it this way. I have trouble with that sometimes because if I get off a little bit, it's hard to right myself. When I know I already have this marked, then I have no trouble with the folding. So I like the tracing wheel best. The first thing then that we will do is we are going to piece this block. So I'm not going to go through the whole process because that's not what this video is about. But when I am positioning that first piece, I'll just go over this briefly. I use a light board, or you can hold it up to a light source or a computer screen. What you want to make sure is that the piece that you are placing, A1, you place it wrong side up, and then we are going to center it underneath the A1 section. I then take a little dab of glue and I put it under here on that first piece, only because when I move it off to iron it, it could move. And I don't want to do that. It's hard to see it when there's not a light behind it. So this way I know piece number 1 is secure. Now I did cut this piece to size, but we're going to double check it just to make sure. We know that the next piece we're going to add is A2. And this is our A1, A2 sewing line. So it's already perforated, or a tracing wheel perforated, dented. We're going to fold it back just like this. You can see those perforations, and then I'm going to double check and make sure that I have a 1/4 inch. And I'm pretty close, but it looks like I need to do a little bit of trimming first. We do that just so that we don't get our fabric out of line. So we've got this ready to go. We're going to keep it folded. Normally in foundation piecing, you'd open that up, but we're not. We're going to keep it folded, and we are going to center piece A2 right sides together, matching those raw edges. So you can see that we have these matched, and then we are going to take this over to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew right along the edge. We are not going to sew into the fold onto the paper, but we are going to keep it right close to this edge so that, and then we'll press it open. So we're going to carefully take this. Now, if you take this over the sewing machine, this moves around a little bit. It's okay, because you can see it and you can reposition it easily. It's not as easy to do that when we're doing regular foundation piecing. So let's go ahead and sew that. So I have sewn along that piece. I'm going to open it up now and press it toward the newly added piece. So I'll do this. Now, you need to finger press this, or you can use, like, this is a little wooden pressing tool, or some people use the little rollers that you use for wallpapering. You just want to make sure that you kind of flatten that out a little bit. Then what we want to do is press this to that freezer paper. So I'm just going to turn it over and I'm going to press it. It will adhere a tiny bit to my pressing surface, but it doesn't hurt it. It just pulls off and you don't have any residue left at all. So I'm just going to flip this over. So now what we're going to do is we're going to press this down. We'll turn it over. Just a quick press, and you can see this is nice and stuck down. Not permanent, only temporary. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Let's check and make sure we have an accurate 1/4 inch seam there. So I'm going to fold this back on that perforation. And it's a little bit off. So we're just going to trim that up. And then we are going to add that second piece. Remember, we want to keep it folded. And then we're going to sew right next to that line. So go ahead and do that. And there it's sewn. It's next to the line. It's not on the paper. We're going to open that up. And once again, we're going to press this toward the newly added piece. I want to make sure that we don't have any tucks or bumps right there. So I'm just going to use that, give it a little press. And then we're going to press it on the marked side again, because we've got the sticky on the other side and we don't want to put that on the back of our iron. So there we have, those two pieces are done. Now I've already done the rest of those pieces. I've just continued adding the pieces. I am ready once again to fold back. I have trimmed this 1/4 inch seam, and then I'm ready to add my corner triangles. So I'll center this piece on here. You can see where it's centered. And then sew along this edge and finish the block up. So that's where we are at this point. So now we've added one corner, opened it up. I'm going to press it towards this piece. Use our little pressing thing. You can put a little dab of glue on that if you want, but usually that holds it pretty well. Then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to give it a press. So here we go. And we will continue adding this piece and this piece. We want to make sure that we've got a good 1/4 inch seam there. And trim off that dog ear. So once again, we're going to sew right along this edge. We have 2 more to go. Trim that off. So there. You can see these pieces are not coming up, which is great. We know that this paper is staying in position. We have one last piece to add before we trim up and remove the paper. So I'm going to still square up that very last 1/4 inch seam here and add the final piece, the triangle for the corner. And you can see that you have it centered on here. Make sure that those raw edges line up. Open up our paper. Again, this is our last corner. Now we can actually press it from either side, it doesn't matter, because we don't have any more of the tacky surface showing. And there we have it. Now take a look at that. This is still on here. Got this corner. It's still on here. It has not moved. And we can trim it up to our 6.5 inches. So I'm going to use my 6.5 inch ruler and line everything up. Make sure that we have it in position before we cut, and be really careful. Turn it around, do the other 2 sides. And there we go. Now this is the best part. This is where we're going to take a look at that cute block, and here's how we remove the paper. It just comes right off. This is a great product. I love this. It works so well. It works just like regular freezer paper. Now, I tested it. I tried to see how many blocks I could make using my freezer paper, and I actually made several. I made 4 using 1 piece of freezer paper. Now you can see this one looks a little bit better than this one. This is because I made several. What I did with this one was I used the perforating blade along the lines just because I thought it would be easier to fold it back, and it was, but after a while the paper started to tear just because we had holes in it. So when I tried to just use the tracing wheel, it worked a little bit better. It wasn't as easy to fold. I had to be a little bit more careful, even use the ruler on occasion, but it did give me a pretty good dent in my paper so that I was able to fold it a little bit easier than just folding it with a ruler. So you can see it worked. I think I could have gotten actually another block out of this. I probably could have gotten 5 blocks before I needed a new piece of paper, maybe even 6. So the only reason that I had to stop using this was because the paper was tearing and I kept taping it. But other than that, it worked really well. The 808 spray really is a great product to put on the back of paper, regular paper, and you eliminate all those problems that you have when you are using the actual freezer paper, all that I discussed before. So let's talk cost. First of all, freezer paper can run, if you buy the freezer paper that's cut to the size to go into your printer, it can run between 12 and 15 cents a sheet. 1 sheet, that's a lot. You can reuse it, so it is less actually per copy than 15 cents, but still, I mean, it's still kind of expensive. When you are using regular paper, it's about a penny a page. So you can print out, if you printed out 5 copies, 5 cents, and tore the paper off, if you printed out 1 freezer paper and it's 15 cents for 1 page and you got 5 copies, you know, it's still a little bit more expensive. You kind of have to take that into consideration. Again, I was able to use this freezer paper 4 times easily, possibly 5, maybe even 6, before I had some issues with it where the tackiness was gone. And the reason the tackiness goes away isn't because it's coming off on anything, it's because you're getting lint from your fabric and from your ironing board getting on this. If you could remove the lint somehow, then you could reuse it even longer, but that's not possible. That's why we have to reprint another page and spray it again. So 5 to 6 copies I think is great. I think that's really easy, and you don't have to remove any of those papers. So if you'd like to try freezer paper, I think the best option is to spray it with this adhesive and print on regular copy paper rather than purchasing the more expensive freezer paper and printing on that. That's just my opinion. If you have good luck with your freezer paper, that is absolutely great. Go ahead and keep using it. If you have an inkjet printer, I'm sure it works much better than what happened with me and my laser printer. But if not, and if you're struggling with it and you've given up, give this a try. There's a lot in here and it will last a long time. I think it's well worth it and a good alternative to traditional freezer paper foundation piecing. I definitely give it a thumbs up. I am always trying to be joyful, but I will always be merry. Thanks so much for joining me.